All right, if you're a project manager, you live and breathe the PMBOK guide, right? It's our playbook. But it's been changing, and let me tell you, the new 8th edition is a massive shift in how we think about delivering projects. So let's dive in and deconstruct what this really means for you and your teams.
So to really get why PMBOK 8 is such a big deal, we have to rewind a bit and look at this problem that's been bugging project managers for years. We've been caught in this constant tug of war between two different philosophies, leaving everyone kind of asking, what are we supposed to be doing here?
And yeah, this slide just nails that conflict perfectly. On one side, you have the 6th edition, which was like a super detailed cookbook. I mean, it was this prescriptive guide all built around what we call ITTOs, inputs, tools and techniques, and outputs. It told you exactly how to bake the cake. But then, the 7th edition came out, and it felt more like a philosophy book. It was all about the big picture principles, the why, but it left a lot of us scratching our heads asking, okay, but what are the actual steps?
So how do you fix that? That tension between the very specific how and the very broad why? Well, the 8th edition doesn't pick a side. Instead, it creates something new, an integrated system. And that word, integration, is everything. It's not a replacement.
And this is what's so cool about it, right? It's this total mindset shift. The 8th edition looks at the prescriptive how from the 6th and the strategic why from the 7th, and it asks this brilliant question. Why can't we just embed the practical steps directly inside our high-level strategy? Why not both? So this whole integrated system, it's built on 4 key pillars. First, you've got the performance domains. These are the key areas we need to manage. Second, and this is huge, is tailoring, which is all about adapting your approach. And finally, it brings back dedicated sections for inputs and outputs and tools and techniques, but not as these rigid rules. Think of them more like a flexible toolbox you can pull from whenever you need to.
Okay, so here's where it all clicks together. Think of the principles as your compass. They're your true north, guiding your mindset, your behavior. Then you have the performance domains. These are the playing fields, the actual arenas where you put those principles into action. It's where big ideas like stewardship and focusing on value stop being just concepts and become things you actually do.
And you know what? This new philosophy completely changes what's expected of a project manager. The job is just bigger now. It's not just about organizing tasks and checking boxes anymore. It's about being a strategist who sees the big picture, a change manager who guides people through turbulence, and a value driver who is obsessed with the benefits the project delivers.
Okay, so if the PM is now this strategic leader, how do they actually, lead? This brings us to the performance domains. And to really get them, you have to stop thinking about a checklist. Instead, I want you to picture your project as a full orchestra. And you're the conductor. Well, these are the sections of your orchestra, the 7 interconnected performance domains you're juggling all at once. You've got stakeholders, that's your audience. Scope is your sheet music. Schedule and finance are the tempo and the budget. Resources, those are the musicians themselves. Risk is about managing any potential sour notes, and over all of it is governance, which sets the rules for the concert hall. Your job isn't to play every single instrument, it's to make them all play in harmony.
Now listen up, because this might be the single most important thing to get about these domains. They are not a list. You don't do them one after the other. They're not in silos. They are all happening at the same time. Just imagine a sponsor adds one tiny new feature. That's a scope change, right? But that change immediately creates waves. Suddenly your schedule is impacted, which puts a strain on your finances. And that new complexity definitely increases your risk. See? It all connects.
All right, so we've got our orchestra, we know the sections, but every performance has a beginning, a middle, and an end. So the 8th edition still grounds all of this in a practical 5-stage life cycle that takes a project from just a spark of an idea all the way to a successful reality.
So the whole journey kicks off with initiating. That's where you define the why in a business case and get the official green light with a project charter. Then you dive into planning, creating that master blueprint. Executing is the doing phase where the team actually creates value. And this involves both quality assurance on your processes and quality control on your product. At the exact same time, you're monitoring and controlling, constantly checking your project's GPS to make sure you're on track. And finally, you have closing, where you formally wrap everything up and, this is critical, capture those lessons learned.
Now, back in that planning phase, you lock in something called the triple constraint. And this is, well, it's fundamental. Scope is what you're building, schedule is when it'll be done, and cost is how much it will take. The key thing to remember is that these 3 are welded together. You literally cannot change one without affecting at least one of the others. It's just a law of project physics.
And the whole reason you lock down that baseline is to protect yourself from 2 classic project killers during that monitoring phase. The first is scope creep. This happens when your customers keep adding these small, unapproved "can you just" requests. The other is gold plating. That's when your own team adds extra bells and whistles nobody even asked for. Both of these can absolutely sink a project, which is why having a formal change control process is so critical.
So, with all this talk about structure and baselines, you might be wondering, wait, how is this flexible? Well, that brings us to what is arguably the most important concept in all of PMBOK 8, tailoring. The era of one-size-fits-all project management is officially over.
The new mindset is this. The guide is a giant toolbox. It is not a mandatory checklist. You, as the project manager, are now expected to deliberately and thoughtfully choose the right tools, the right processes, and the right methodologies that actually fit your specific project, your industry, and your company's culture.
And a lot of the time, that choice really boils down to this. For projects where you know exactly what you need to do, the requirements are clear and stable, a predictive or waterfall approach is perfect. Think about building a house from a detailed blueprint. But for projects with tons of uncertainty, like developing a brand new app, an adaptive or agile approach is way better. The plan evolves in these short cycles based on constant feedback.
Okay, quick PSA for everyone out there studying for your certification. Circle this date on your calendar. The PMP exam will start incorporating the 8th edition in July 2026. If you're planning to take it before then, you'll still be focused on the 7th edition and all its related guides. So just keep that in mind.
All right, let's pull all these threads together. The expanded role of the PM, the integrated orchestra of domains, the absolute focus on tailoring, all of these changes are really serving one ultimate purpose, to completely redefine what project success actually looks like. See, the real finish line isn't just about being on time and on budget anymore. I mean, those things are still important, of course, but they're not the goal. The real goal is creating sustainable value that lives on long after the project is officially closed. And this goes right back to that benefits management plan we talked about in the beginning. It's about delivering real, lasting results, whether that's financial, operational, or even social.
And that leaves us with one final and I think really powerful question you need to ask on every single project you run from now on. It's a simple gut check. Are you focused on being on budget or are you focused on being on value? Because that answer right there, that is the true heart of modern project management.